Hello, I'm Persia.
And I'm Joey, and you are watching an Addictive Daughter Skype Nugget.
And today we are very excited to get to speak to the gorgeous Ruby Warrington, who is a freelance British writer based in New York City. That was a mouthful. And also the founder of the numinous.net, which is an amazing website. Well, you can actually tell us what it is, Ruby.
The numinous.net, well, the strapline kind of sums it up. This tagline is Material Girl Meets Mystical World. So on the site, I cover everything from astrology and tarot to all sorts of kind of cool, esoteric healing arts, but in a very non-crusty, non-professional way. Because I think that this is kind of like the new wave of what's really cool. In fact, I call it the now age, because it's kind of like these new age 60s ideas that have given a really kind of aspirational, glamorous upgrade for now. So that's kind of that's my angle at the site.
Fab. So, thank you for joining us today. We would just love to kick off by hearing how it all begun for you. So what's your journey been as a writer, setting up the website? Give us the lowdown, really.
Well, I studied fashion promotion at London College of Fashion and graduated many, many years ago, and quickly went into a career working in magazines and newspapers in London, which culminated after about 10 years. I landed a job as features editor at the Sunday Times Style magazine, which you probably know is the kind of like glossy weekly supplement.
Yeah.
Super cool. Like, it was my dream job. I absolutely loved it. But it was very, very full on. And after a couple of years, I really found it had started to take its toll, and that I wasn't as happy as I felt I should be in that situation. Because like I said, it was like my biggest ambition ever to work at this magazine. I was writing about all the stuff I wanted to write about, working with great people. It was super exciting, traveling, loads of freebies, fabulous. And yet I found myself quite anxious most of the time, kind of bored, and I was kind of angry with myself for feeling bored. I was like, how could you not be appreciating this amazing opportunity that you've been given? So I didn't really know what to do, and I just thought that was it, and maybe I was just kind of carry on. And I actually, I was drinking quite a lot at the time as a way of kind of like finding some joy or whatever in my life. But then I kind of started to think, well, maybe I need like a side project. Maybe I just need something on the side of this. So I've got my work life, and then I can have kind of my life and have a little project that's something I can do for myself. Okay. So I started to ask myself, what would that be? What would my hobby be? Like, I'd never thought about having a hobby before. But I'd always been really, really fascinated with astrology, and could talk about it endlessly to my friends, could read about it endlessly online. And I was like, well, why not start looking into astrology and maybe start studying astrology? I'd love to be able to read people's charts. So I actually approached Shelley von Stronkel, who's an amazing woman, so supremely knowledgeable about all sorts of kind of mystical everything. She's travelled around the world, lived in ashrams, like, she's just fabulous. I kind of introduced myself to her and said, look, I'd love to study astrology. What do you think about teaching me? Yeah. And she would invite me around for dinner at her house and show me books I should be reading. And through lots of our conversations, it became clear that we shared the belief that one of the reasons astrology wasn't more accepted in the mainstream was the way that it was represented online and in books and in magazines. Yeah. It was always very much under this kind of mind, body, spirit banner, lots of purple crushed velvet and kind of like
tie-dye. So true.
Early drawings of angels and things. And we were like, yeah, cool, fine, but not particularly cool. And bear in mind, I've had like 10 years working in fashion magazines, so that's my aesthetic, where I come from aesthetically. And so we're talking about this, and I'm like, yeah, wouldn't it be amazing to create some kind of a platform where astrology was presented as very sort of like glamorous, aspirational. It was actually Shelley who used the word numinous, which is like luminous, but with an N, in one of our conversations, just to describe this whole kind of mystical world of experiences and sort of modalities, including astrology, which basically are all of the things that we experience as human beings but can't necessarily define in words. It actually means that which is unknown or unknowable. And I just thought it was the coolest word I'd ever heard.
Beautiful.
And immediately my mind's putting things together, and I can see a magazine called The Numinous. A bit like, do you know the Gentlewoman magazine? Have you seen the Gentlewoman?
No, I don't think I have.
It's very cool. I think it's a quarterly. They always have someone sort of really sort of highbrow, intelligent, but very fabulous on the cover. And it's just very simply designed, but very chic. And I imagine immediately a magazine called The Numinous that would talk about astrology and all of these other numinous topics in this very kind of like high fashion way. So that was an idea, and that was probably about 4 years ago. And I'm still working at the Sunday Times. But at the time it was, you know, I was features editor, so I was having to land an A-list celebrity interview every week, write features every week, commission and edit features from other people. I was also managing the party pages at the time, so I was out at events every night. So really my life was completely consumed by my job. And I was like, how am I ever going to do anything else? Like, because I was already so excited about this potential side project that I knew I'd want to give it everything. So I just kind of sat there and didn't really do anything in my mind. It was just kind of there for a couple of years, and I really wanted to do something about it. And then, as always happens, the universe decided to intervene.
Yes.
And my husband landed a job in New York. And I was offered this opportunity to resign from my job, from what I considered to be my dream job. And make the move to New York and go freelance, which I knew would then give me the time to pursue the numinous and actually kind of make it into something. So, but then it was only a year or so after I moved to New York that I actually did start working on it, because I still was very, very consumed and caught up with this belief that, no, I'm a journalist and I've got, you know, I'm Ruby from the Sunday Times and I should now be writing for all these people and doing all this kind of work. It was very much my ego speaking, actually. Because I know my ego was very, very pleased with the fact that I'd achieved this kind of status as a writer, and then let it go very quickly to become a lowly blogger, you know, because that's essentially what I was lining up to do. But then it was actually through a conversation with another astrologer who I met in New York, and I just kind of like, we were just talking about things, and the idea just kind of bubbled up out of my mouth, and she leapt on it and she was like, you have to do it right away. And that's when I started working on it.
And how long ago was that?
That was about a year and a half ago.
Okay, wow.
Longer than a year and a half ago. Yeah. And I actually launched the site in its current format properly a year ago this weekend.
Wow, happy birthday, Numinous.
On the fall equinox. Autumn equinox, so I'm so Americanized.
That's it. We relate so much to what you're saying, and essentially this idea of the soul project, that's what Addictive-Daughter was for us. It was something in our hearts. We knew we were meant to do it, and we didn't know about monetizing it or business plan and all of that malarkey, but we just knew we had to do it. And there's so many friends that we've got, or we hear a lot from people who follow Addictive-Daughter, who kind of, they're in their dream job like you were, and they are just not, it looks all good on the outside, but they're just not happy. Even when we were acting, and the times when we got, like, you know, our most successful were actually the times we were most unhappy.
And funny you should say about the drinking, because on the best jobs on my CV from being an actress are the ones that at the rap party I got absolutely trashed. So weird, but there was some emptiness there that I wasn't, that the acting wasn't for me fulfilling. It's really interesting.
But it's interesting, you know, you guys come from an acting background, which I've always thought of as an outsider as quite an ego-driven career as well. It's like journalism, a bit like journalism, because essentially you're pursuing a career which is about you putting yourself out there in the public eye and seeking approval in that way. So, there was a lot of ego stuff based around my wanting to be, you know, not being able to leave Sunday Times. There was so much kudos that came with it, so much glamour, so much envy of my peers. It was kind of like, look at me, you know, I've landed this fabulous job because that must mean I'm fabulous.
Yeah, and it's really scary to let that go, isn't it? It's really
very hard to let that go, because we're so conditioned into that being a definition of success. You know, that being what success is about, climbing to the top of the ladder, beating everyone else at the game, whatever. That's kind of success. And so, but yeah, I mean, I honestly cannot tell you, or you know you've experienced, but how much happier I am, how much fulfilled I am doing something that's really about an expression of my own creative voice.
Well, that's what we want for all the other addictive daughters out there, because you understand it, we understand, like, so much happier when you're following your soul project. So, that all being said, what are 3 tips that you can give other addictive daughters out there who would like to start or to discover what their soul project may be?
Well, I think the first thing is to work out whether you're already doing it in some way, shape or form. I mean, that could be an interesting thing. Like, kind of look at what you're doing and sort of think about how much of you is invested in it because of your ego, how much of you is invested in it because it's what other people think you should be doing, or how much of you is invested in it because it is an expression of what you want to do. Because as much as I was really unhappy in my job at the Sunday Times, well, I say really unhappy, there was lots of it that I loved, and I'd never want to say that I didn't. It's just like I was unfulfilled. But I was still, writing, and I still am. Like, the Numinous is like, it's my own personalised version of the Sunday Times. So I guess the first thing would be, look at what you're already doing, what you do enjoy about what you're doing, and if there's a way you could maybe shape that to become a more soulfully directed personal project.
Yeah.
The first step.
Okay, good. Second step?
Well, the second step, and this is what I really did. I think I was on a holiday in Ibiza, and I was lying on the beach, kind of thinking about going back to my job and being like, oh, what would I rather be doing? Like, if I was going to go back to London next week and like just spend all week researching something and all week talking to some people about something, what would it be? And I immediately landed on astrology as just something I've always been completely fascinated with, and felt that I could, learn about endlessly, read about endlessly, talk about endlessly, bore people with at parties probably endlessly. So I think about, everyone's got that one thing that, no matter how random, it could be smoothies, it could be cats, it could be
Some people really love cats.
Really, really could, that always makes you feel good. That always, when you think about it and you talk about it, switches on that kind of like inner 5-year-old who just wants to like get really excited.
More fascination. Yeah.
Totally, learn more and more about.
Yeah, awesome. I loved what you said before about the dinner party analogy. About, I really relate to that. Like, what is it that you talk about around a table of people? That you're just in flow. And for you it's astrology. For me it's definitely relationships. I think I'm really fascinated by people and how they interact, and we think we bring a lot of that into Addictive Daughter. And it's such a joy to be able to do that.
And why I think as well, we're so interested in why people do what they do, the human psychology and how can you be happier, we're so fascinated by that. That's hence why we started Addictive Daughter.
Exactly. What I love about this idea is that everybody's different. So if everybody was to pursue their soul mission, that's the wrong word. If everybody was what it is that lights them up inside, it's almost like every single piece of the jigsaw puzzle would fit, because everyone would bring something unique and perfect to the table, and we'd have this kind of wonderful sort of tapestry where everyone's bringing their unique gifts, which I think is a lovely idea.
That's the goal. That's the goal.
Okay, awesome. So that's your second point.
And now the third tip.
Well, I think the third tip is actually do something about it.
Okay.
Make some space in your life, no matter how small that no matter how it might seem like you don't have any time to do anything else, because you're probably so consumed with what you're doing and with your relationships and with your family and like everything else that you might have on. Try and find, even if it's like 5 minutes a week, anything that could be the seed that you're planting towards growing more of whatever this is in your life. So actually take some action. Don't just think, I wish I could do that, or I wouldn't life be so much better if I was doing more of that, or was talking about that more often. Actually find a way to go and do it. Whether that means finding someone else who's as interested as you, like your fellow geek who is like, and just go and have dinner with them once a week, or like every fortnight or something, and talk about it.
Yeah, totally.
Or buy a book, and actually read a book about it, or just kind of like actually start inviting it into your life, making some space for it in your life, and let it grow.
Yeah, and what I love about what you said as well is that, like, I think there can be a lot of pressure to be, people say find your purpose and your passion and make your living from that. And actually, I really like the idea that you weren't completely fulfilled in your job, so you started thinking along the lines of almost a side project. It wasn't going to take over your life, Although it sounds like it kind of has done now, which is amazing. But it's a process, and you can start really small with it and do something really simple that's not completely going to dominate things, but it just feeds you.
I mean, if I didn't have, I've always been quite entrepreneurial. I'm an Aries, and I'm very much a self-starter, and like I've always kind of wanted to have my own magazine and never really had the guts to do it.
Yeah.
And if I didn't have this kind of personality, and in fact that's why New York is very much kind of like supportive of that, and I'm surrounded by people like me who are like, yeah, let's just do it. What can I do to help you? And things just kind of happen here. If it had never happened, and I'd stayed in my job at the Sunday Times, but I just learned how to read people's astrology charts and had made that more of my life, I think it would have really helped to balance out my life in my regular job. It didn't have to become what it has. It was still very much have been worth my while to just pursue it for myself anyway.
Oh, there's just so much fodder here. It's amazing. So just a really quick little recap for our addictive daughters. If you want to discover what your soul project is, number one, look at what you're doing now, what work you're doing. Does it light you up? What bits do you like about it? What bits don't you like? Is it ego-driven or is it soul-driven? Number two, imagine that you're holding a dinner party and you are hosting for the evening and you have to talk all night about one subject. What would that be? What would that be? And then three, take action, however small it is, just little baby steps towards that, and just be open and see what happens.
I really liked what you said before we started recording this call, when we were talking about the third step and the fact that actually kids are really encouraged to do extracurricular, aren't they? And as adults, we don't do that.
Yeah, and I think you're supposed to have it all figured out by the time you're 18. Okay, you've tried out all these things that your parents probably got you to do so they could just keep you busy and try you out.
Get you off their hands for a bit.
Maybe you like playing a musical instrument, maybe you like playing tennis, maybe you like drawing, maybe you like doing this. So you're encouraged to do all of these things as a kid, and in fact you're given the opportunity at school to do all lots of different subjects. But then you're meant to have it all figured out and be like, okay, well, we've worked it out, now you're a writer, and that's right.
Yeah, in a box. Yeah.
Why should we stop? Why should we stop this exploring what our real gifts are and what our real passions are as we get older?
Amen to that. So true. So we've got a little challenge for all the addictive daughters out there. So the to-do of today is we'd like you to think about what it is you would be conversing with your friends over at a dinner party. What's that one topic that you just cannot stop thinking and talking about? And we'd love to see your comments just in the box below and just hear about what people's passions are.
However weird. If it's Tupperware, that's cool. I quite like that.
Even better.
Yeah, the weirder the better. Exactly. Ruby, thank you so much for this. Where can people find out more about you or the Numinous?
thenuminous.net. So the Numinous, like luminous, but with an N.net. And when you log on, there's a sign up for our email. We just do one monthly email on the full moon with a special little full moon message and a kind of a recap of what's been happening on the site and updates about other news. So that's a really good way to kind of find out what's happening on the site. You can also follow Twitter and Instagram, which is at @the_numinous. And if you do sign up for the newsletter, there's a very exciting announcement about a fashion line that I'm bringing out at the end of October. So watch the space.
Sign up now.
Yes.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Ruby, for talking to us today. It's been really great. And we will speak to you soon.
Cool, thanks for having me. Bye. Bye.
Hope you enjoyed this life nugget. If you did, please like it and subscribe to our channel. And if you've got any friends who you think would find this interesting, which I'm sure you do, then please pass it on to them too. Thank you so much for watching.
If you'd like a life nugget and a weekly dose of happiness and motivation straight to your inbox, sign up at addictive-daughter.com and join us and thousands of others in getting addicted to the good stuff today.